night before I met him, he was kind of disheveled and just being who he was, and he didn't know what to expect, so he wasn't like really putting any effort into it. And the second date, the next night, he was just, you know, much like a woman. You know, we do our hair, we do our makeup, we do our nails, and we want to look pretty, you know, for a date or whatever, as opposed to being in hair curlers and, you know, our sweats and hanging out at home. It's different. So you want to, you know, you kind of want to pump it up a little bit. So we drove around Beverly Hills, and he was showing me places that he, you know, that he had been or that he'd like to go or he'd never been. And then we drove around some of the studios that he did some movies in. And he goes, oh, honey, I did this, you know, this movie at this studio. I did over here. I did over here. And then eventually we went back to the house again. And we read more, and no more gifts exchanged. He could tell I didn't want anything. I was not accepting anything. And I stayed until the morning. Nothing happened. We were just absolutely, you know, friends at this point, dates. And then he sat me down in the bed. He said, honey, he said, I want to talk to you seriously. And I said, okay. He said, I want to ask you something. I said, okay. He said, you've made me really happy. I said, well, thank you. I said, that's really nice to hear. And he said, but he said, I don't know what your personal life is like and everything. He said, do you have a boyfriend right now? I said, no. He said, are you dating anybody seriously? I said, no. He said, well, he said, I'd like to be your boyfriend. He said, and I'd like you to be my girlfriend. And I looked at him. This is the second date. I didn't know what, really, my jaw was on the floor. I didn't know what to say. So I said, you know, in my mind, I'm thinking, just be honest. Just be honest with him. And I looked at him and I said, give me your hands. And I held his hands. I looked him straight in the eyes and I said, Elvis, I said, I'm moving. I said, I came back here because I've been living in Rome, Italy for the last year or two, a couple of years. And I said, I came home to LA to close up my apartment, sell my car, which is why I didn't care to get a new car. And it's bashed in and I don't care. And to get the rest of my clothes. I'm moving back to Europe at the end of the week. He looked at me in shock, absolute shock. He said, you can't. I said, but Elvis, I am. He said, you can't. I won't let you. And I looked and I went, what do you mean? What are you saying? He said, I want you to stay here. I want you to be my girlfriend. He said, I will do whatever needs to be done for you to stay here. I said, but look, I said, I know you're an entertainer. You're traveling everywhere. You're always gone. You're this, you're that. I said, when am I ever going to see you? He said, it won't be like that. I said, how is it going to be? I mean, I put him on the spot. I said, how is it going to be? He said, you're going to come on tour with me. He said, I've got a tour starting in April. He said, I've got a new plane. I've named it after my daughter, Elisa Marie. He said, I'm getting it all refurbished, redone. He goes, I want you to see it. I want you to be on it. I want you to be on tour with me. He said, you'll be one of the first people to see it. He said, and I'm going to sing your new favorite song, which is Tierra You BLE on tour, and I want you to hear it. And I go, really? You are going to sing that song? He goes, yeah. And he says, but I need you to make a decision. He says, and it's got to be fast. He said, because I have to leave tomorrow. And he had to go back to Memphis. And I had to make a decision because I've got an apartment back in Europe. I've got an apartment. I've now given, you know, my notice. I'm leaving. I had somebody want to buy my car. I mean, I had to really move on this quickly and make a decision. So I looked at him again. I said, look, you have to be absolutely serious. I'm not going to be sitting here left alone. I said, I'm moving my whole life for you. I said, and I wanted to be very emphatic with him. And I said, look, I said, the only reason that I'm going to stay here is for you. And he looked at me, and he didn't say anything. He said, okay. He said, okay. He said, I promise you. I said, okay. He said, I want you to do what you have to do. Make your phone calls and all that. He said, now, And he had apparently already been thinking about this because he had things planned. He said, I want you to meet somebody, and you're going to meet him tomorrow night, and they're going to give you something. And that will enable you to take care of what you need to take care of. I had no idea what he was talking about. I just said, okay. He said, I will call you tomorrow before I leave. He said, when I get home to Memphis, I will call you. He said, we're going to keep in touch. He said, if some time goes by, don't think I'm not going to call you. He said, I get busy. And he was very famous for it. I mean, he could date a girl and not see her for 2 months and not call her. That's how he was. He just was like that. And you either sat and you waited, or you moved on with your life and dated somebody else. But if he found out you were dating somebody else, he wasn't interested anymore because you weren't there for him. He wanted to know that you were going to be really sincere and you were going to be there for him. And the entire time I knew him, I never went out on one date.